All right. Oh, I was like, what's that voice? All right. Yep. So that's recording. All right. Quick word from the sponsor. FIFO, What Really Happens After the Plane Takes Off, available at Aaron Weston Author Instagram account. Hilarious novel about all the dodgy stuff that happens in the FIFO industry. For the kids, you got Australian mining machines colouring in book, Australian surf lifesavers, Australian paramedics, Australian police vehicles, Australian Defence Force machines, Australian firefighters, all available at Children's Books by Aaron White on Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, just click on the shop now button, grab yourself some, and I'll sign them and pop them out to you. All right, let's get into the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Aaron White Show. Today, we have a fantastic guest, Blake Wood. Blake is a founding ambassador of FIFO Zero. Welcome to the show, Blake.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having us. Yeah, bro, you got to slow down those books there, man. Those intros. That's a lot you got there, eh? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got FIFO number 2 coming out in the next couple of months, so that's going to be pretty exciting times. So the first question. Hey, can you please tell me your story, like how and where you grew up, any life-changing events, and how you end up doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. So I grew up in Sydney. I grew up out southwest of Sydney. Grew up in housing commission. It was not you could say a very great upbringing and environment. There was a lot that kind of went on there, but there was a lot of great stuff as well. I mean, growing up, I loved playing rugby league, and I found out like mid to late teens that I was really talented at golf, and then I picked that up. I live right next to a golf course, but yeah, like I played rugby league like for all my childhood growing up, and that's just all I wanted to do. Went to Parramatta Summer Coaching School, and just loved it, you know. Yeah, and then like I said, golf kind of got introduced early teens, and I just within a year I just excelled and just realized that I just had a natural talent for it. And like I said, I used to just spend hours and hours like on the golf course. I've been right next door. I used to sneak on and go and find all golf balls, and literally that's how I literally bought my first set of golf clubs. I literally would go collect golf balls from the dams and the bushes on the other side and sell them to driving range. And yeah, literally laid by my first set of golf clubs and just paid them off that way. And I think that was kind of my first introduction, looking back on it, of my entrepreneurial, kind of onset. Like it was kind of just the way I was brought up. Yeah, like so that was kind of, like my early on years was just all in focused on sport. It was rugby league and golf, and that was it, and that's all I wanted to do. I didn't really like school much. Like I didn't I didn't really tend to gel well with that. I was kind of like the problem child, if you will. Like I was always seemed to be getting in trouble, but also like just excelling through sport. Like primary school, rugby league, touch footy, like was just it, like we were, that was just my world, sport. And that's just all I felt like I wanted to do. But like I briefly touched on where I grew up and that kind of environment, housing commission. Look, my home life wasn't the best either. Like it, my father was, he was an alcoholic. And so there was a lot of associated trauma and just a world of negative experiences growing up, so it wasn't the greatest role modeling environment, if you will. And that kind of sent me on a different path, so I on one sense, like I loved my sport and all that. I had a lot of amazing things going on in that arena. Like I said, golf kind of shifted and took over. I literally got billeted out for the New South Wales Catholic combined colleges. I made the state team when I was 16. So within just a couple of years, like I was beating my local pros at my golf club. Like I got down to a 3 handicap. Like I was shooting under par. Like I loved it, you know. Yeah, I literally got billeted out at Ocean Shores when I was 16. Like I said, I made the state team, and then after that, we actually won that. And there was 4 of us on that team, and those guys went on to go on to tour, you know, and you know, earning millions of dollars. And I kind of, well, not kind of, after that, literally that event, I didn't pick up another golf club for 6 years. I gave it away, and that was my home life, like just tilted me in a different direction. So you could say like I got mixed up in the wrong crowd, but I mean, when you know what is actually going on there, you are being the wrong crowd, right? It's yeah. So that kind of just tilted me in a different direction, and I became you know, it was just basically a destructive path, right? Of, you know, like obviously when you're young, you know, with your mates, like you love having a beer, you're going out and partying, you know, for the first time and stuff, and so you like just, yeah, you getting caught up with that, you know, going out and partying, binge drinking, you get caught up with the party drugs and stuff early on, and yeah, and yeah, I suppose you can get caught up in that and have it as a beautiful experience, or it can be a destructive kind of experience as well, as where you're basically, it's affecting other areas of your life, in which it was, you know. So it was kind of my escape, and I was just like, I just rebelled against everything and basically just didn't give a fuck, you know, like I just, and yeah, and so like I mean, that was my introduction basically to life and growing up. You know, I kind of envisioned my life in a very different way. Like growing up, you know, I wanted to play golf, or, you know, or like I said, I was rugby league first, and then it was golf, and then that kind of didn't happen, and then I was like, well, fuck, my life's over now, you know, like I had my shot, like and I wasted it, and I didn't do anything with it. And so I just carried that with me for a lot of years, and didn't know how to self-reflect on all that, you know, and move past it, move beyond it. And yeah, like I said, I think, like, looking back on it, you don't know how to capture, you know, the essence of what's actually at play there. Like if you look back on it, and if like I had a supportive environment, like you would, you know, that could have just taken off anywhere, you know. But like I did have good people in and around me at the golf club and stuff like that. But it was just, like I said, the mentors and leaders that you have, you know, in your life from your parents. It's like that's your main guidance, right? And so that was destructive in itself. And so yeah, it sent me down a different path, mate. And yeah, so yeah, like when that all took place, well, that was in Sydney. I grew up. You know, I spent a lot of years there, and yeah, I kind of it translated into you know, destructive really relationships as well. Like I got married young, and that that didn't go anywhere. We were together 6 years and married 3 months, and that's another story in itself, you know, on how that kind of split up. But we had a brand new home together, and yeah, like I said, it was just, yeah, it just seemed like that there was everything that I was trying to do just didn't eventuate, and it just ended up in a destructive pattern, you know. And so and now that from all the work that I've done, you know, through personal development and understanding myself better over the years, you know, you can self-reflect on that, and you can see the destructive modeling patterns that I was playing out that I'd been taught from my upbringing, right? So yeah, and I spent probably to my late 20s in Sydney, and then I got my first FIFO gig. Like, so when I'd split up from my missus there, like I said, we bought a brand new home together. She'd moved out. We were there selling it. But that was like a 7-month process. And in that time, I applied for a job. FIFO, like I seen it advertised in the paper. It was an 8 and 6 roster. It was like a truck driving role. I had my HR, and it had already been advertised for like 2 weeks, and I just thought to myself, "Oh fuck, it's probably gone already," but I'll apply anyway. And literally the next day, a lady called me. She said, "Oh, look, we put somebody on, but they were no good. We sacked them. Can you fly out tomorrow?" I was like, "Shit!" Like, it was just like surreal. Yeah, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So it's yeah, and that was my intro to FIFO. So I started with Queensland Rail. I started like as a contractor, skilled. And yeah, I was working from literally the bottom of Queensland right through to WA. And I just thought, like, yeah, it was just incredible, like it, when I like literally got my first paycheck, like I was like, it was at that moment, right? I was like, holy shit. Like, because I'd gone from job to job, right? Like just laboring jobs, just like I said, I was no good at school, and just like I was just fucking, it was just shit jobs, like wasn't earning much. And then when I started that, I was like, holy shit. Like firstly I thought, have they got this wrong? Like it was, I was clearing like just 1 week over 2.5 grand a week, and then was a little bit less. It was still over 2 grand for the other week. So I was, mate, it was like just ridiculous. And I just, some shifts I didn't even get dirty, mate. I didn't even get out of the truck. I'm driving this water truck around to fill up the train. I was on a track machine grinder, big 80 stoner. And yeah, like I was just like, yeah, it was just kind of surreal. I thought all my dreams had come true again. Like I said, I grew up in housing commission. We didn't have much. We struggled growing up, living from week to week. And yeah, when I got that, I was like, man, I've made it, right? Like it's yeah, and that didn't last long. That feeling of like, oh yeah, all my dreams are coming true. Like I just realized to myself, like, shit, all the things that I've dreamt of like, owning a cool car. Like I loved, V8s. I grew up all and around them all my life. My first car was an XY Falcon. My mum paid $1,500 for it. Like, look at what they're worth now. It was sitting in a yard up at Lithgow, and she drove it back unregistered. But I just loved that, like cars in and around that. And I just like, I always looked at, the HSVs coming out, and I was just like, I'd love one of them one day, and just how could I obtain something like that? But yeah, when I got this job, I was like, fuck, all my dreams have come true. But then it expanded, right? I was like, fuck, I can buy my dream home. I can travel anywhere in the world I want, and I can have all this time off. It was like, it was like this dream setup. Like I was like, it's just incredible. But yeah, as I like went through that experience, it taught me a lot. Like it just, these patterns started to surface. Like for the first time, I was just starting to see kind of how it was, and how was it affecting my life. Like, so a big part of the QR experience, like it was incredible. Like I said, from the bottom of Queensland right through to WA. So 8 and 6 roster, every shift we're in a different town. So like just these old country towns, you just never get to see in your lifetime. And you just have these experiences with all the boys out there. Like it was just incredible. We'd sit around, we went across the Nullarbor, for example, right? And we're staying in these old rail camps, old deserted mining towns. And, we're just working on the train on shift, and then afterwards we'd fucking get a big bonfire around and stand around having beers. It was just like, it was awesome. Some of those experiences I look back on, it was just, yeah, that's like awesome, but yeah, a big part of that was the drinking culture. And a lot of there was a few of us younger fellas that were there, and, we used to run amok, like it was, single fellas in different towns, we're just going out and, even like the supervisors and all that, they loved it and that as well, So we just literally, we were on the piss every night. Like, and the older boys, like that's just all they did, like it was like literally we're going through cases a night. Like it wasn't, like you're having 6 beers. It was like we're getting pissed every night, and you're getting up, and nothing was regulated there, right? So you just go on, you do your 12 hours, and then you just back into it again. And literally, it got to the point where I was going on days off to have a break from getting off the piss. Like I was getting the days off, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't want to drink," Like it was like full on, and like I noticed it starting to affect my relationship at home. So I'd split up with my wife, like, and then I was in another relationship with a woman in Sydney initially, and we were living together, and then her family was in Queensland, right, living on the sunny coast of Mooloolaba, and she was like, "Let's move up there," and I was like, "Yeah, why not?" QR flew me out of any capital city. I was like, "Let's go." So I started flying out of Sydney with them, and then ended up relocating to Mooloolaba for a little bit. I was flying in and out of Brizzy, but yeah, like I said, that drinking culture, it started affecting my health and my relationship at home. So when I come on home, like, she'd be wanting to go out and spend time with me and that, and I was just drained, or like I didn't want to be drinking. I was just like, you know what I mean? It's just, but at times I would. So, and then it was like, there was never a break from it. And back then I didn't focus in on my, like my physical health. Like I didn't train regularly. Like I would go through cycles of like, I'd train for a bit, get myself in good condition, and then I'd just stop, like it. And that was kind of the patterning growing up, because I played rugby league all my life. So I was fit and healthy, but there was no structure in and behind like focusing in on my physical well-being as a priority every day. And so that, like I said, of just on the piss and eating what I wanted, I'm somebody that if I don't do it, like take care of my health and I just eat and drink piss, I balloon, I blow up. So I have to be mindful of that. So that took place. Mate, and I basically, that experience with QR was, like I said, awesome. But at the same time, it was affecting my health, and in the end, it affected my relationship, and that ended. And then I was, obviously, I went driving for a trucking company. There for a little bit, just to do in between, but there was jobs advertised through Skilled for the Pilbara track maintenance, and so I'd already just done this stint nearly 2 years with them with QR, and so I was like, this is my, like kind of my in for getting another role with them in rail. And that's kind of that was my intro to FIFO. And then I just pestered them. Apparently, when I found out later, they sent it through to BHP. Because they were hiring through Skilled, and they sent them my resume, and they said no multiple times. But I literally hounded them. I rung them every day. Like it was like, what's going on? What's going on? And they couldn't get workers at that time. It was just like, it was, just one of those moments, where it's like BHP are hiring, and they eventually said, apparently, this guy's pestering us, he's ringing us all the day, like he's keen to start, you going to want to give him a go? And they said yes. And that was my start to the Pilbara and WA, so I spent 6 months contracted with Skilled, and they trained me up, all track maintenance. So I didn't have any of that experience, you know what I mean, but just rail and FIFO experience. Like I said, I was on a track machine on a grinder, so it was different in itself. But they give me a go, trained me up, and then I got offered a full-time job with BHP, and I was with them for 7 years. So that was my intro to FIFO mining, and my start of my career over in WA. I started flying back and forth, like I said, out of Brizzy in the beginning, but it just got too much. The travel, like I said, the days off, getting back there. And yeah, it was interesting in that transition, because when I went to BHP, everything was regulated. Like I was saying before, like nothing was regulated before, and here I found like you couldn't get hammered every night, right? But there was still a drinking culture there, but like it was regulated, and yeah, you couldn't do that, right? And so it had shifted to days off for me, and that, but yeah, like that it was playing its toll, the transition of flying back and forth, and the option was there to relocate, and I took it. So they said, we'll relocate you to WA, and I was like, yeah, sweet. And yeah, and my relationship ended as well with that. So we that kind of ended there, and yeah, basically relocated to WA all those years ago. I've been here for nearly 11 years now, mate. So yeah, that's kind of my intro to FIFO and mining. So
I'm just going to get you to keep telling your story, because now you're doing the FIFO Zero thing.
Yeah, mate, cool. Yeah, so it's yeah, I just thought, because I could kind of ramble on here, mate. I just yeah, I could go for hours. It's been quite a journey, eh? Like I said, things were different here when I got here. That everything was regulated, everything had shifted to days off. But in itself, again, it was at the beginning of this, it was like, oh, bam, like I've got another fresh start. So it was awesome in the beginning. So like I give the example of like when I started with QR, I thought all my dreams had come true, right? But then I got caught up in the cycle of, my own patterns had kicked in again, and obviously you get caught up in the culture, right? So you just become a product of that environment. And so, yeah, and when I got to WA, I was like, oh man, another fresh start. I can, I'm single and new beginnings, and it was awesome. You're off adventure, like exploring a new city, new job, new friends. Yeah, things were awesome. But yeah, like a few of the boys that I used to work with, we obviously were FIFO out of Perth. Started on a 9-5 roster with them, and so when we were back in Perth, it'd be like out in party scene. So like I said, it had shifted. So it wasn't on shift. It was now days off. So every day's off, we'd come back and just, go out partying and look, again, in saying that, like I've still got amazing friends that still work at BHP, still track maintenance, and yeah, like those relationships and things, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? And those experiences, like I said, going out and going off on adventures, and I mean, that's what life's all about. But yeah, like for me, I'd learnt, obviously, when I got to my point where I was struggling, did I have the ability to self-reflect and understand exactly what was playing out for me, ongoing. So it got to the point where, like I said, I got excited for this new adventure, new job. Like I just full-time BHP, like I just, after 6 months, yourself, mate, that these jobs are not easy to come by, and you've got thousands of people lining up to take them and take full advantage of what that brings for yourself and for your families, and it's awesome, right? But yeah, so I was in that, and then I just got to a point where, again, the drinking on days off, partying, not taking care of my health, I just felt deflated, and I was struggling. I was like, there was a lot of stuff that I was carrying with me, like from my home life. Like I said, my old man was alcoholic, he was abusive, and so there was like, yeah, there's a whole like a violent upbringing there, and you're without you realizing until you go through the work, do you self-reflect and realize that you're mimicking and playing out those same patterns of behavior. I mean, that's how we learn, right? And so I've just had a history of destruction and like just not giving a fuck basically. And so about my health and all of that of my life really. And so that was very short-lived, that that feeling awesome, like I've made it, I can travel anywhere in the world again, like I can buy my dream home, I can do anything. You've got the cash flow to make a really rewarding, prosperous life for yourself, but if it's managed in the right way, and obviously mine wasn't. I just blow all my money, go off and like I had the Maloo Ute, I had the supercharged
Nice.
VF. Yeah, mate, I loved my cars. Like I said, I grew up in and around them, like I bought a Maloo Ute and I had a VF supercharged. I had a 547 there, and I had it salary sacrifice through work, and you know what I mean? You get all the perks with it. It's just like, yeah, but like I said, I was just self-destructing. There was no structure in and around how I could structure my life and manage. Like I was just, you can go out, you can go out partying and you'd have times where, you're going out and getting on the piss with the boys, and you're drinking, to an extent, and you're like, what happened last night? And, you can't find your phone, and, all those kind of things. And you realize how easily you can just undo all that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you basically you're playing with fire. And like I said, you've got thousands of people that are lining up for these jobs that bring a high value of rewarding life for people, and people thrive with that, and yet so many people struggle with it, right? And so I was definitely one of the ones that was struggling with it, and I didn't know how to communicate that with anyone. I was like, I didn't know how to communicate this in an effective way to my supervision, to my management on site. I was chronically depressed, anxiety. Obviously now having the ability to self-reflect and look back on it, my mother suffered with that. And like I said, there was just a destructive relationship there with my father. And, my mother was just chronically depressed, and she's been like that her whole life, but not understanding what is actually at play, So I would just, I got to the point where I was just spending, like my days off, at home. I didn't want to leave home, didn't want to talk to nobody. I was having time off work, I'd just book and leave, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't go back to work. Like I just, the anxiety, the depression was just like, it was just too much. And I was just taking time off work, and I just couldn't find my way. And, at the same time, I was like just drinking too much, and it had actually, like I said, it moved to days off, but it started to be a lot on my own. And so I'd get to days off back in Perth, and I was going, like, living at different places and like traveling, and I had a backpack, and I was staying in a hotel on my days off, and I'd been out in the piss, and the next day I was like having a panic attack, like an anxiety attack for the first time, and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, why do I feel this way? And I don't know, man. Like something in me just searched for help. And this is when I came across George, my co-founder at FIFO, his personal development program called EP7, Empowered for Purpose in 7 Steps. And so I found this program. I still remember the first phone call, I'd made to him, and, I was like, and that's how my journey began, with personal development and really creating that shift for the first time internally for myself. That was the beginning of it, and like it was like I was having profound insights through that process on for myself and why I was the way I was for the first time ever. I'd never been able to self-reflect in that way ever. And then it was kind of jarring in itself, you're like, what, like just understanding that process for yourself, like how we have that lens of perception and that creates our reality, and there's a whole world there, right? Like I said, you become a product of your environment and your upbringing, and then you play that out, and just to have all that as an insight for the first time was like a whoa factor, but in a good sense, and you've got that guidance and support to move through it. So yeah, but very early on, like I would still dance with the, wanting to do better for myself. And I'd still, justify, hanging out with the boys and going out for a beer, and I'll just have one or two and it turns into 6 and 12. And next thing you know, you're getting, hammered again. So I was still dancing with that. And after a big night out, one time I was living in an apartment on Hay Street in Perth, and like like I said, I had a big night out and I was breaking down in the shower. I was having another panic attack, but this time I was telling myself to jump off the balcony, and this was the first time in my life that I was having suicidal thoughts. And it frightened the fucking life out of me, eh? Like I literally felt like for the first time in my life, I wasn't in control. And it just took every ounce of my energy to fight it. And I got dressed. I didn't even dry myself. And I literally had a meeting scheduled with George that day. And to be honest, I don't believe if I had that guidance and that support, I wouldn't be here today. It's and it was at that moment, when there was a shift, like I couldn't stay there. And I moved out into another place again. But this is when I really started to dive into the work, and really started to understand myself better and understand why we are the way we are. It's this, like, how we're conditioned as humans. And that was just a profound insight. Like, mate, I like, this has just been my world for the last 10, 11 years. Like, it's not only is this program opened me up, it's opened me up to the world of incredible people that are out there, within our community doing amazing things, and literally that want to help. Like I remember very early on back then, I was like, no one gives a shit about you, no one gives a stuff. Like, but that was the mindset. That was how I was brought up. I was stuck in this tunnel vision, and but yeah, like it took, it took many sessions and many of hours for George to be able to break that patterning for me. Like, it's very early on, I didn't even trust him. I was like, he didn't give a shit about me, he just wants my fucking money, but like when you understand the framework of the work and when you actually you get it, it's just wow. Like, these people, it's just incredibly humbling to know that people have found that balanced state of perception for themselves on a human level. And when you do, you're connected to every one in and around you. And you understand what it means to be human. This is fundamentally human conditioning and human transformation, understanding why you are the way you are and how you move through any challenge, any situation in your life, but transcend it and move well beyond it. You know what I mean? It's not a coping strategy. It's not anything you're fixed on. It's not a label. And so I never went down the traditional route of going to a doctor. I've never taken medication or anything like that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing in itself, because I truly believe it gives people a reprieve, right? It gives them hope that there's a new way to be. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, mate, this is why I just love this work, because not only has it changed my life, it's transformed it. And I just it was infectious to be around. Like, I just loved it. I just wanted to absorb more and more of it. And I got started getting connected to more and more amazing communities all over the world that are doing amazing things. And I started sharing a lot of this with my workforce on site when I was at BHP. I got connected to a lady in Perth that was an RUOK ambassador. She put my name forward to be an ambassador. I launched the FIFO campaign with RUOK. They flew me back to Sydney. I launched their FIFO campaign here in Perth at Bristow Helicopters with the CEO at the time, Brendan Ma. Just incredible. Like I just wanted to be in and around this work, and just loved it. And so I felt myself just growing as an individual. I was moving through, all the negative stuff that had been going on in my life. And I was just like, that was well beyond me now. And you've got literally a new focus and a new way that you can see your life playing out now. And that was exciting. And so that laid the foundation for me. I was sharing a lot with my management at BHP, and that laid the foundation for me to travel with the BHP Wellness Roadshows in 2016. And so I was traveling from site to site as their RUOK ambassador. And it was just profound, incredible. Like it was at that moment that I'd realized that this was what I was meant to be doing. And I also had the insight of like, why the fuck are we doing this all the time, Because I was having my workmates coming up to me going, because I was sharing my story of struggle, with the alcohol and, with my relationships and not being able to communicate that. And they're like, fuck, mate, was that hard for you to share? And I was like, yeah, look, it was in the beginning, but I understand the importance of it now, and this is what it's about. It's this conversation, it's this interaction. And like that was one interaction in particular, a guy, Newman, and he said, mate, I'm going through the same thing right now. I just lost my brother to suicide. And he goes, I just split up with my missus. He goes, I'm in Newman on my own. I was like, fuck, mate. I was like, this is why we're here, bro. And then he shook my hand. I could see the tears in his eyes, but the appreciative nature of like, for the first time that he's being heard, and I watched him go over and get connected to the support services. And I was like, fuck, this is what it's about, And look, as amazing as that was, it was the most challenging time for us all too, right? Because we lost a mate out of our crew literally 2 weeks before those roadshows kicked off, and like I wasn't even on site, mate, at the time, but I was caught up, and they said, you still want to be a part of it? And I was like, yeah, because I just knew that it was just so important, obviously, but it just sent a ripple effect through our whole department, as you can imagine. And then I traveled with the Wellness Roadshows, and that was the last time I was on site. So I resigned from BHP after that, and yeah, look, I basically sold everything. Like I was just, look, I'm done. Like I was just like, I wanted to go traveling, and that's what I did. Just condensed it down to a backpack, and got rid of the cars. Like I had to hand back the VF in the end there. But I just basically, I'd lost everything, right? I had that salary sacrifice through work, and well, it felt like at the time, I'd lost my career, and I just, like, you searching for answers, right? Like I'd done so much amazing work on myself, and then obviously we've had this incredible experience, like I said, through the roadshows, but yes, the most fucking traumatic experience at the same time. And it's like, it was just hard for me to navigate. I was emotionally caught up in it all, and I was just like, fuck, we need to be doing more. Why aren't we doing more? And I needed to be able to take time out. I needed to move myself out of that emotion of it all, and how do we communicate and translate in a way that helps our industry be different, and create a culture that's there for one another. It's that's what I was asking myself, and so I went off like traveling. I said I was over in Bali for a bit, and I met a girl there, and she was from London, and I took off. I was over in London for a bit and spent a little bit of time in Amsterdam for a couple of weeks, and was just loved CrossFit. Like at that time, literally at that time in 2016, I walked into a CrossFit community down in Mandurah. And like I was unfit, unconditioned, but I was like, I wanted to give it a go. There was so much noise about it. And I still remember my first class. Like I walked in and then I was last to finish in the class, and then everyone was standing around me going, pushing me on. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But I felt that community aspect and that support. And then I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like, because it's, these venues are mainly seen for our physical well-being, right? But it's the emotional well-being. It's that connection and community that goes unnoticed. And that's it, like you've got those elements as well as the physical well-being as well. That's what's at play. It's not just your conditioning and getting your body in play. There's a whole mental health framework that goes in that, that really supports us as individuals. And so like I went off traveling. Actually, so I'll just take it back, sorry, because I went off to that, London and Bali, and that extended that. But when I resigned from BHP, before that took place, that CrossFit interaction, I was doing a lot of work with Are You OK, different communities and stuff like that. I was out at the Northern Territory there as well at one stage for the community out there. We did a big Are You OK event and that. So I was getting asked to do different events and stuff like that. And
Blake, we got about 2 minutes max.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
I didn't want to stop you, but watching the time, we're going over time because it's like a 40-minute show. It's like, I don't want to stop. I want to keep this going. But
like, sorry, mate. Cool. Well, maybe we'll have to do a part 2 of this, right? Because I'm just getting started. Mate. So, there was a heap of work that I did there with them. I did a CrossFit challenge, community challenge, for a number of years, traveled all over Australia. And then when that finished up, then I went overseas. And then like 550 came to me when I was away. I came back. I knew I'd come back to it, but I just didn't know how. And then that came to me when I was away. And then I came back, met with George, and I was like, 550. I still remember we're in the office. He Google searched to see if it was available.com, and that's how it started. And then so I then rented a 1-bedroom apartment in Freo for 7 months and just honed in on everything that we needed to do to launch. And we launched at the Man in Black Ball momentum events here in WA. And that was our launch for 550, 600 odd people at a corporate event. I was like, whoa, it just like, and it was kind of surreal because the apartment that I rented in Freo, the guys literally were away traveling, came back, and then they started on site as a health and wellness advisor with Sodexo. And that's how we got our first gig with Rio. So we literally went from launch to on site, like literally just like that. It was just like that happened. And so that was the beginning of 550. So maybe we can, in the next episode, maybe we can extend that and share kind of where we're at and what that vision's all about. But basically, in short, we're on a mission not to lose any more of our mates. And we believe that we can achieve that. Excited to continue that chat with you, mate. And thanks for having us on, eh?
Oh, no worries. Thanks for coming on. All right, better do that outro. Oh, well, yeah, thanks for coming on. Did you have fun on the show?
Yeah, mate. It's good to be on these platforms and continue to share the message of on how we can be better for ourselves and one another within our industry. It's so important, eh? So I think everybody can agree that we don't want to hear that our mate didn't make it back to work. And so just knowing that we have that support in and around us is it, and we're able to do that for ourselves is everything. So
where can people find you online?
www.550.com. You'll see there, and social media platforms, 550, all of them, LinkedIn, and Blakewood. You can see everything. So it's cool, mate.
All right, awesome. Better wrap this up. Well, yeah, that's a wrap. I'd like to thank Blake again for coming on the show, and I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening. Please tell a friend about the podcast and have a fantastic day. All right, bye.